And we are here. We are live, and it's a Saturday evening. It's that time of the week when you want to sit back, relax, and have your me time. Well, I'm joining you. And this is Mind Your Health, staying well with RJ Keisha. I am RJ Keisha, and I've been a radio jockey for a really long time. And along with this, something that I've been absolutely passionate about is wellness. So today I have this opportunity to welcome you into our space with all your questions, with any thoughts and queries that you have, because we have with us Effath Yasmin, who is a craniosacral biodynamic practitioner. She's somebody who works with wellness in different spokes and in different areas. The amazing news is this is International Breastfeeding Week, and Effath Yasmin is also a renowned lactation consultant. She's created an amazing film on breastfeeding that is being showcased as we speak across 80 countries, I think, 700 cities. It's huge. The numbers are staggering, but she's making a difference in families. And today, she joins us in Mind Your Health to make a difference in our life. So, Effath Yasmin, excited to welcome you here today. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you
us.
so much, Keisha. I'm so excited with you here.
We know that you are somebody who also has a tribe of conscious parents, and you're constantly inviting mothers and fathers and people to work on relationships, to work on different aspects of relationship. And today you say that there is a science of healing, and I have a feeling that there is a tilt towards nurturing beautiful relationships. So tell us, as we start out, tell us about healing and if there is actually a science behind it.
Right. Yes, Keisha. And when you mentioned about the tribe and conscious parents, I think the secret behind it is that I want to be as conscious as a lot of people around are. And the secret is if I attract those people into my life, maybe, hopefully, I would have a little more consciousness in my own parenting. And that's the secret behind it. But you're talking about the science of healing. And this has been intriguing for me for a very long time, Keisha. And I've been working in the field of craniosacral for more than about 7 years now, and in lactation for more than 10 years now. So, along the line, somewhere I started to feel that there has to be a way to recognize what our path is going to be if we truly want to begin healing ourselves. And the way the most approach is like you go to a doctor, pick up the medications, and start to take medications. And that's been the approach across most countries and most societies, I think. But also, when we go back to being traditional, we realize that, okay, there are herbs that are supporting us for our healing. But what truly is going on is what my intriguing mind was always, Keisha. And I discovered through my own experience that it's deep acknowledgement and listening that's the true science behind healing. So when I say acknowledgement, I'm also then coming to saying, okay, what does acknowledgement even mean? Acknowledgement, in other words, is listening. When I say listening, it's not just about blankly listening to words of somebody, but truly staying in that space that allows someone to exercise their entire autonomy of who they are as people. And why do I say that? Is that a human being, when born, I'm talking about a small baby when it's born, the central most, the core of the person is knowing that I'm here and I'm present and I need to be seen and I need to be felt. That's the first need of a human being when the baby is born. Now, if that central core of that person is acknowledged throughout life, then we are sinking in with what nature intends us to be. But very often we move away from that alignment of autonomy, Keisha. And that's the reason why we have so many illnesses and diseases in our life, because we have moved away from our core. And if you ask me, Kisha, today, when people come for therapy, now I'm talking about people who are severe depression and suicidal tendencies, and there are also people with other kind of diseases like cancer, why stomach issues, or depression, or other issues such as diabetes and thyroid, and all hormonal diseases that are there. Now these are predominantly all over the world. Now when you ask them what is it that you really feel that needs to be done, that will support you in your journey, the only thing people talk about is, I'm not good enough. And they're not being seen. The central core of a human being is, I'm not being seen. And I have not felt my presence in this world, Keisha. And that's the ultimate reason of any illness on this earth. And I've started to see that what then will be back, going back to alignment, and what will help me start doing the real healing is that acknowledgement. Now acknowledgement can happen two ways. Acknowledgement is self acknowledgement. One is that, because many of us are in this process, like you've been talking to so many people across, in your wellness channel. They all have different modalities, whether it's art or whether it is to do with positivity. Everything is to do with making sure that I own my emotions of who I am. First step is about acknowledging my own feelings, that yes, I am feeling this way, and actually putting them into words in my heart to say, yes, I am feeling angry and upset, and I resent that this happened so many years ago, and I'm unable to forgive this person for so many years. I also listened into your show, which you were talking about forgiveness. Now everywhere, whether it's to do with art or talking or counseling, everything is about providing the environment for people so they can kind of resonate with what their feelings are, and that has to bounce back to them. That makes sense, Hisha. And if they do that, that's true acknowledgement. The moment true acknowledgement happens, then true healing begins there.
What is standing out for me here in this entire space right now is the fact that, one, we need to acknowledge, but two, it needs to make sense to us. So
Yes.
however much somebody out there is saying, you need to own the way you're feeling, you can't give the power to anybody else. The choice to feel that way is here.
Yes.
Unless it
Yes.
makes sense, unless it strikes a chord with you, there is no alignment. So
Yeah.
acknowledging that as well.
Yes, and the similar thing is about, this is about the heart, right? Where we are talking about, and I wanted to share about this as well, because the shape of the heart, Keisha, it has a lock. I don't know if I spoke about it last time, but when the heart is formed, it's a long tube, okay, and the tube actually crosses over and locks itself, okay, and this happens when the embryo is actually developing inside the mother's womb. Now, what that signifies to me is that the heart is the place of autonomy, and the autonomy is only with myself. It can never be anywhere else. And that's the symbolism of how a heart actually closes. So that means if you get information from outside, which is the world of information today, Keisha, and so the brain is a very innocent organ. So when you send information to the brain is like a computer and says, okay, oh, this information, what do I make sense of it? To make sense of it, it sends it off to the heart. And then the heart has to resonate with what information is coming to you. Unless the heart feels resonated, it's never going to make sense to you, Kisha. And so the
Wow.
true autonomy is right there. And unless that makes, so that you give advice. I mean, so many people give advice, and advice is never taken by anybody on this earth unless there's a field of trust. And that trust can only come in if my heart has been touched. You can only speak to the heart, and only then it can make sense. Similarly, your body also does exactly the same, Kisha. So the body has its own story, all right, and that's stored as chemical signals in the body and chemical fluids in the body. That means it has an impression in the body. Every experience in your life has an impression in the body. So imagine the body to be like a landscape, Isha, not like parts, like the head and the arms and the legs and the stomach and the heart and the lungs. If we start to dissipate that differentiation and labeling, it is just a huge landscape. And like the wind in the desert that actually makes the sand dunes, similarly, every experience and emotion in life will change that sand dune in your landscape of the body.
Wow.
And the only way we can come back to the blueprint, which is central alignment to health, can happen if that story has been heard. And so in craniosacral therapy, what I employ is, what I put out there is, can I give the container of therapeutic setting in such a way that the person feels acknowledged? I'm talking about the human body. Talking is one, which happens through counseling, which is again a space and a container of acknowledgement, waiting to see if the person puts out the story and that resonates back to them or resounds back to them and it starts to make sense to them. And say, oh, okay, this is not what how I felt, or this is not how I did it, but maybe this change in my life will then make better sense for me. So that's counseling. But when you come to the human body, the body is also putting out that information in the form of vibrations and sensations. And as a therapist, my body is trained, my sensory system is trained to read that, listen to that vibrations.
Wow.
So without the same sense of without the same sense of judgment or asking the body to do a particular thing, which I will do if I follow other specific modalities, for example a medication. Now the medication is something that I assume is going to help the body, and then I give it to the person. But when it's to do with this therapeutic work, you are following the life force and waiting to see if that body can then start to feel acknowledged and then starts to go back to its midline. So
Wow.
that landscape then changes beautifully right in the middle of a session. And within that half an hour of session or 40 minutes of session, Keisha, you have wonderful experience of how the landscape changes more towards wellness.
Well, when you're acknowledging yourself with somebody else, with a
Yes.
craniosacral biodynamic practitioner, it's a different space that you enter, and you in trust, allow them to help you to get to that space of alignment and acknowledgement.
Yes.
But
Yes.
how do we do it at home on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, so that's the second part of it. Now, one is you have a therapist who can work with you. You can have counselors who can work with you, or for that matter, even art therapy will do the same thing. So you're expressing your emotions and you're finding a way to kind of infer your own sense of being, of who you are and how you want to express yourself in this life. So that's one part of it. But when Keisha comes to, when you're asking me the question, what do I do about my own self? If I'm not looking for help from outside, what do I do for my own self? One first step is to first own those experiences. Many of us are in denial, Keisha. So if we lose somebody in life, a loved one in life, the first thing that comes is denial, right? I can't
Yes.
believe that this person is not there with me. So I'm taking the emotion of grief because many people do understand the process of grief. Where it's to do with other things such as frustration, anger, resentment, that feeling is not so alive. And we don't track that feeling as much. But when you take an experience of grief, it's easily more understandable because it's a very strong emotion, right? And many people don't know how to process that emotion. But they do know that the first thing that comes when grief hits you is that you are in state of denial that this even happened to me, right? And then we can stay in the state of denial for years, Keisha. We have people who look for therapeutic help maybe 15 years later, maybe 20 years later, and they haven't moved from that experience of having lost a loved one, right? So that acknowledgement has not happened. So if you have to do it yourself, then first is to recognize that these are my emotions and then own those emotions first, and then making an acknowledgement in different ways. Meditation is a fabulous way to do that.
So
Putting
can we
colors on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, so can we at this point in time Just acknowledge the way that we are feeling right now. Would you be able to take us through that? Just in this moment, everybody who's watching, be in
Yes,
acknowledgement of the way that we are feeling, because just in doing that, the practice doesn't happen unless we're constantly
that's
nudged
true.
to do it.
Nudge to do that. Yes. So before I start that little exercise, Keisha, I wanted to bring the aspect of knowing there's a lot of talk about positivity. And I wanted to put that into context now. The value of the whole doesn't come together if it is in the place of polarity, which means negative and positive. We separate them, right? And they're on opposite sides. And constantly, people who are going through difficult time in life, whether illness, whether it's mental illness or otherwise, they're constantly said that, can you think positively? Can you bring in positivity into your life? But we often forget that you cannot have the wholeness of yourself if you are going to disown the negative aspect of it. It has to be together. So an electron, if you look at it, it can't stand by itself if there is no negative and positive ions in it. So they can't be a polarity. There are no feelings. So you can't judge the emotions by looking and saying positive emotions and negative emotions. They are just simply experiences of life.
Beautiful.
And the
Beautiful.
moment you yes, and the moment you recognize that, it's easier to say, yes, this morning when I saw my friend put out a post on Facebook, I felt envious that there's so much good happening in their life. But if I'm not recognizing that, I'm going to have that feeling, because feelings are like rivers, no, Keisha, they will come anyways. Whether you
Yeah.
like it or not, it's going to emerge from your heart. But if it
Yeah.
does and you don't recognize it, there is going to be a repercussion to that, to their feelings, to their own self in their bodies, and to others who towards whom it's been projected, such as even anger. So how beautiful would that be if you can just go back to yourself, and one of the first things to do always is to keep your spine absolutely straight, because the spine is the highway of emotions. So we got to recognize that you can't have a Western Express highway jammed up and you can't zoom across Mumbai. It's not possible. And we understand jamming, right? So you got to make sure that the highway is clear, you have a freeway to move through. So your spine being straight always helps for us to move through. So looking within myself, I'm going to be real about this, because this is something that has been happening to me, and the way I would find my acknowledgement is this way, that I've put out this film in the last 2 days, and it's been spread across the world in different cities. But there are lots of people in my life, and I'm talking this to myself, Keisha. So I could be sitting in a comfortable position just within my own self. I might leave my eyes closed and just make an acknowledgement of what's happening in my own life, just making it more real. So while I've been putting this film out for everyone to watch and to feel what young mothers go through and to make a resonance with what's happening in their own lives, I'm also seeing that there are lots of people in my own life who I consider to be loved ones who aren't making an acknowledgement of this gift that I have offered to the world. And I feel hurt about this. And while I feel hurt about this, I probably will be able to stay with the recognition that maybe they feel in their lives that they are not able to achieve what they would like to, as much as they would like to express their own self. Maybe it's hard for them to do that. And the moment I recognize that about other people who are unable to acknowledge someone's gift, it makes it easy for me to acknowledge who they are and then dissolve it right there, Keisha. So if I'm able to do this on a day-to-day basis for my day-to-day life, things that happen in the day. My husband comes home and he's not talking to me, and many of us feel that way. That he's like busy, he has so much work, and work thoughts are more than anything else. So these are ongoing things, and start to recognize that I feel frustrated when I'm not spoken to, and I've been waiting to talk to people, and people don't talk to me about what's going on in my life. That's the acknowledgement I'm doing to myself by recognizing it. But the moment I start to do that, the second thing that flows automatically is, but of course, he must be tired. And it's a lot easier than to have a bash up, which often then clashes up with that. Same thing with children, Keisha. Same thing with children, young children, isn't it? So they come and say something to you, and they say, "My mom, do you know this happened with my friend? And, he's been upset, and or she's making sure that she does not let me do what I have to do, and she's been we are having a fight over this." And those are things that they might come and share with us. But the first thing you would might say, so, um, maybe you should give it back to her. You might teach things to them, but you're not recognizing that there is a sense of autonomy. So the best way I can probably approach this area is that, oh, so I see that you are feeling upset that this happened to you between you and your friends who really are close friends, but today you're having a fight with her. So she say, yeah, mom, but maybe today she said that because she feels this way, but I think I'll go back and talk to her tomorrow. So
Beautiful.
the allowing of space, Keisha, I think that's the tough part for many of us. We jump in to give advice, we jump in to solve the problem, but that's also coming from love. We love them so much, so we just want to fix their lives. But each human
Completely.
being, isn't it? Yes. Yes.
Completely. So I think right now, and it's easier, I've also noticed in the way that you were sharing, it's easier to go ahead and acknowledge what is happening somewhere else than to
Yes.
acknowledge what is happening here.
Oh, yes. That's the most toughest part. If you ask me, the real healing only happens when you start to recognize your own patterns and your own feelings first. I think we are stuck with our own emotions. It's not so much with others. It's easier to deal with other people than our own self. So we are stuck in our journeys, and only if I recognize that is when we can kind of feel that. But if somebody else points it out to you, you're going to feel hurt and judged. You see?
Completely true. Completely
Yes.
true. So,
Yes.
how do we get to that space where we are comfortable with ourselves and okay to acknowledge the way we're feeling? Yes, I am feeling upset. Yes, I am feeling happy. Yes, I am feeling judged. Yes, I am feeling angry. Yes, I am feeling jealous.
Yes. Yeah.
How do we get to that point? Because all of those emotions are inside of us. How do we get to that point of accepting and acknowledging this is me? And like you
Yes.
said, it's both sides, right? There's the good and there's the bad. There's the dark and there's the light, and there's the right and there's the left, and there is the balance.
Yes, the look at the universe. You have light and darkness with that, right? But you can't say that the light is the only part of the universe I will associate myself with. You got to see the darkness, which is a bigger part of it, actually. The darkness is the bigger part of the universe, actually. So if we start to just be aware that everything is a part of the whole, and my experiences and my emotions are completely okay, no matter what flavor they bring in, whether it's frustration, anger, all these emotions have a fabulous purpose in life. Every emotion has a purpose in life, Keisha. And if we know how to express it, then what happens is the action that comes out of it then will have an impact that's going to bring us into wholeness. For example, anger. Now, where do I use anger? The problem with most of our lives is that we have these emotions, we want to keep disowning them because, oh, anger is not supposed to be there, frustration is not supposed to be there, so we want to keep disassociating with those feelings. And that's what we are taught and conditioned to in life, right? We are always conditioned to do that. So you can't be angry, you're not supposed to be that way, you're supposed to be only the calm Buddha. But in reality, all of us have anger. It's not possible for us to feel any other way. But what is the sense of this is that once you recognize that emotion, we need to then learn or teach our children how to express that emotion. That's the only thing that needs to be taken care of. So if I feel angry, what can I do with it? Rather than bash somebody up, either physical abuse or an emotional abuse, which is what happens in everyday life. But what can I safely then learn to express that? So when you ask me what can I do, how do I get there? There are only two steps to that, Keisha. Step one is to recognize and name the feeling. Before that, arrive in yourself. First is to arrive in myself. which means take a few minutes to just feel where your body is, because my mind is hovering around and it's not connected with my body. Bring it back to the body. And the second, that's the second step. Second step is to recognize and name the feeling that yes, I am feeling angry, I am feeling upset. And the third thing is to do a resonation, which means play it back to your own self. I feel angry because this morning when I woke up, I didn't see the kitchen to be as neat as I expected it to be. And I was hoping that you would have done it for me. So that whole talk, the talk of trying to put that entire feeling and your story together, telling your story that this is what happened, will make it more real for you. And the acknowledgement happens right there. So, in simple, doable ways, this is the way that we can probably bring in into practice into our life.
Wow. Wow. So if we could do this now with just like a gentle journey over the next 2-3 minutes, would that be
Yes.
possible?
Yes. So, it's to my own self, which I already did. Is it about talking to someone else, like to
Yeah, to
self
me
again?
and to everybody who's watching right now.
Yeah, so I am. So I'm going to probably make an acknowledgement to you, Keisha. What I'm hearing from you, and this is an exercise. Remember, we do it, and you're a part of the tribe as well. So we
Yeah.
do it in every tribe, isn't it? What we do is to bring together and talk about your own experience on that particular day, and let somebody else make a complete acknowledgement of that. When you do acknowledgement, you simply restate what the other person is saying. So I'm going to make that little acknowledgement for you, Kisha, so that people, those who are listening in to us, may know what is the quality of that acknowledgement, right? So what
Okay.
I'm hearing from you, Kisha, so I start out my acknowledgement with mostly what I'm hearing from you. It's a lot easier for me to feel that way. So I feel you, Kisha, and I'm hearing you say that you're excited to kind of put this entire series of wellness together, because this has resonated with you for a very long time, and being the RJ that you've been for the longest time. You've been talking and connecting with a lot of people, isn't it? And because of that connection, you started to see that, really bringing in that social aspect of connecting with feelings and emotions of people and your own self. You started to clarify your own path in life. And that's why you feel so excited today to bring this episode of putting together those special people you have met in life, and say, if I'm connecting with these people because I'm the RJ Keisha, can I not share this with the world outside? And you feel joyous, and you feel like, you know I can see, I can feel your feeling illuminated from inside. So
That
uh, it's true. Is that how you feel? Am I
you
stating how you feel?
you reflected my emotions completely. Thank you so much, Ifa. That's wonderful. And I would like to acknowledge you and acknowledge the work that you're doing and acknowledge the support that you are to so many parents, especially new parents, how you handhold mothers in your personal space in the clinic, in your professional space in the clinic, and with the film, even remotely showing them that they are heard and there is a listening that is being sent out for them, and there is guidance that they can reach out to, and of course they can self acknowledge and know that the power is within them. So
Yes.
Effath Yasmin, I hope that I resonated with what is
Yes. Yes.
happening within you. And actually when they say fula, I'm just learning muhavres with my daughter, and they say fula na samaya.
Oh
I'm
my God.
overflowing with joy, right? And I
Yes.
feel that you are overflowing with love for everybody who's watching your film or even sharing it, or even maybe getting ready to watch it.
Yes. Yes, true. And the secret here is, Keisha, that when you know that someone's actually acknowledging you, you just have to watch their body language. And it's going to be like, I mean, like, yeah, you get it. You get it. Yeah, that's,
And this acknowledgement can happen with self as well, right?
yes,
You
that's right. Exactly. Yeah. But
so
if you're
you
lying to yourself, Keisha, that's the point, isn't it? Because when often we are looking at our own journeys, we are in state of denial and we're not actually acknowledging truly. If it doesn't feel like it's lightening up your heart, it's not true acknowledgement, Keisha. If you're doing a self acknowledgement, that's very important. How many of us can own a feeling of envy and jealousy and anger? It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yes. So, I'm going to try. Today, we are actually streaming on two different spaces on my
Okay.
YouTube channel, which is Mind Your Health on YouTube. And we're getting in the thumbs up, and we're getting in the hearts, and also on the Mind Your Health page, which is on Facebook. I am currently trying to go ahead and look at the comments, and we've got Everest Rodrigues who's watching, and he says, very insightful discussion. Thank you, Everest. Thank you for acknowledging us. And everybody else who is watching right now, if you can go ahead and let us know that you are watching. How are you acknowledging yourself? You could acknowledge your feeling. You could acknowledge your time here that you're spending. You could acknowledge a journey that you've had in these last couple of months. Whatever you want to acknowledge, you can. Even the way that your body is feeling right now, whatever is the acknowledgement, go ahead and type in the live chat column. And we definitely want to hear from you and questions that you have, because Effath Yasmin is somebody who's uh, filled with wellness, sharing. She's working with parents. She's working with uh, the parent child relationship, with the mother father relationship, with new mothers, and she uses different spokes of wellness. So you can go ahead and chat right now. Looking forward to, and I'm acknowledging your presence here. Thank you so much for joining us. Your interest, your wellness is what we want to share, and I'm hoping that you are feeling well. um, so Ifat, where are we going to be acknowledge the family time we have at this time, says Jolwyn. Thank you so much. uh,
True, true.
Loving that. um, so Ifat, as we move towards our last capsule, so to say, what can you leave us with that allows us to truly be present to us, like a daily ritual, something that we can do maybe in the morning or in the night, to acknowledge how we are or acknowledge a relationship? Because it's in this acknowledgement, in this stillness, in this, like you said, arrival first and then acknowledging how you're feeling. How do we create this as a daily ritual? Because it will lead to wellness. It will lead. We're used to so much of, like, excitement, that when it comes
Yes.
to thera, when it comes to the stillness, we don't know how to really enjoy it. So can you share something with us?
So the limitlessness of the spirit of the human being is what is the first thing that to recognize, Kisha. Which means we are limitless in our spirit because we want to soar. So we leave our bodies and move out. That's what we do often, you know. So that's one of the biggest thing that first people should recognize, that our human spirit is so vast and so expansive that it's willing to just leave the body and all the time be around outside, and all the experiences are happening outside of our bodies. And the first thing to do is bring it back to your body, because that's where we exist in this life. And that connection can happen with small rituals that every religion actually brings in. I don't even have to invent something for us. Each of us may have their own things that they have been doing. For example, a lot of people chant, a lot of people do meditation, a lot of people just do a small ritual of standing in front of their, into their prayer space and bring themselves to disconnect with the worldly things and just bring themselves together there. So all these things are a sense of arrival. We don't even have to invent new things, they already exist. But we have moved away from those practices, Keisha. I think what we can leave a message here is to go back to that, go back to connecting with our own self. And that one self can happen either in the morning, early in the morning. I think I love being early in the morning. So I go for a walk and I try to sit, quietly for some time. So whatever little time that we can manage to do in our lives, that little time is very important to be within ourselves. And that allows us to process a lot of things, and things emerge isn't it? Like in water, when you mix up water and you swirl it up, it's going to be all chaotic. But if you want to really see the sediments that sit down and actually let the whole working emerge, you will have to go into that state of stillness.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that in today's time, it's more true than any other times in our lifetime, really, Keisha. Especially these times when too much is happening and so much of uncertainty in life. So, can we acknowledge that, yes, these times are absolutely uncertain for us? We don't know what our future seems like, when we can go back to our normal life. Is there going to be a normal life at all? So, if I start to make that acknowledgement and I'm feeling scared and I'm feeling unsure about this whole life that's coming together in this, and but also at the same time I recognize that, so I'm making an acknowledgement. So if we are listening to that, that's the process that I will be doing for myself, that the whole world is having a very similar experience, so maybe we can figure it out together. The moment I make that acknowledgement, you see, naturally it took me to a place where it said hope is what where I will end myself into. Acknowledgement will always come back to hope, Keisha. And hope is
Yes.
the only thing human spirit needs
Well,
for wellness. For wellness.
this is beautiful, because a lot of people call the varied thoughts and the soaring out, which you put so beautifully, of the mind when it
Yeah.
leaves the body, you called it soaring. People call it monkey mind or chattering in the mind.
No,
But I
no.
love how you put it, that when the mind is soaring, you can bring yourself back to the body. And when you're here, that is when healing happens. When you're
Yes.
here, that is when acknowledgement happens. And when you're
Yes.
here, you can start loving yourself a little bit more by acknowledging that you are everything. You are the expanse, and you are the anger, and you are the peace, and you are the joy, and you are
Yes.
the sadness, and you are it all. So
Yes. Those are
uh,
flavors of us, and we have to own them all.
completely, completely. Owning ourselves and owning myself right here. Thank you so much, Effath Yasmin, for joining us here today in our space of Mind Your Health, Staying Well with RJ Keisha. You've given us this amazing tool of self acknowledgement. You've shared by self example, you've shared by handing this tool over to us, and now I hope that we're able to take one of our daily rituals that we may have grown up with, or take another one from one of the Mind Your Health episodes, and
Yes.
inculcate that in your life and acknowledge where you're at, and from there, great healing and great happiness. And whatever the world is going through, we're going to heal together. So,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank
Wishing
you,
you
Keisha.
all success with the showcasing of the film on breastfeeding all across the world, the film that you created with so much of love, with collaboration and hands across the world. And now it's reaching homes across the world. Thank you so much for joining us. And we wish you wellness, as I know you wish us.
Yes. Thank you so much, Keisha. It's been my pleasure.
So, as we move to the end, this is what we say: you have a choice to mind your health, or it's your choice. Stay well with RJ Keisha, and thank you so much for joining us here today.